Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where three cycling nerds discuss what's been going on in the week of cycling, and this one in particular with Paris-Nice and Tirreno Adriatico, and with an eye to the week ahead, because that's Milan San Remo. But as always, I'm joined by Mr. Critter himself, Ewan Wilson, and Patrick Blake of Outdo Cycling. And I mean, guys, where do you kind of want to start? I mean, Jumbo Visma dominance once again.
Visma Lease A bike. And number one. I don't think I'll ever get used to it. It was a lot of Visma Lease A bike dominance. It kind of slipped my mind that they actually won both of the stage races this week with Jorgenson and Jonas, both in relatively convincing fashions. Jonas probably more convincing than Mateo's, but I think Jorgenson's was just a real testament to consistency is key, and the fact that, I don't know, he just kind of did a really good job, I think, this week against a lot of stiff competition. I was really impressed with Jorgenson, and yeah, just generally, I don't know. Usually it's quite easy to tell if Paris-Nice or Tirreno is kind of like the better race of the two, but I think it was pretty close this week, actually. I think they both had good moments.
I can hear the internal screaming of you and wanting us to go in chronological order, so...
I mean, yes, but apparently I saw online as well that this is the first time that a team has won both Tirreno, Adriatico, and Paris-Nice in the same season.
Wow.
I didn't fact check that, but if that factoid is true, then that's massively impressive, and this shows that Visma are just carrying on from where they left off last year in dominating the general classification at stage races. Chronology time. Let's begin in my preferred race of the two, Paris-Nice, La Course au Soleil. We began in Les Mureaux with a little uphill sprint. That was won by Olaf Koy, who took that one ahead of Mads Payson and Lawrence Pithy. It was made him Dutch for some reason. On stage two, we had a battle between the sprinters. In the end, it was Tudor Pro Cycling who got their first win of the year, courtesy of Arvid de Klein, the Dutch sprinter who has really been knocking at the door for a big victory in a while. For a while, rather. A number of second places the other week at the UAE Tour, and now with this big win here, he also won Milan Tirreno, which used to have a mountain in it, but it doesn't anymore. And Lawrence Pithy then took on the yellow jersey on that stage, which took us into the strange team time trialing format. The strange team time trial brought sort of two halves. There was a dry half and a wet half. At the beginning of the day, UAE Team Emirates went fastest, with their first man across the line being Joao Almeida. They were in the lead for, pretty much all the day. In the intermediate check, we saw Soudal Quickstep go particularly fast, as were Bora Hansgrohe. Bora Hansgrohe only down to three riders for most of the TTT, with Sobrero, Roglic, and Sasha Vlasov. However, the teams that went on later had to battle through the rain. That hampered their time in the end, and those teams did not come close to winning the stage, as UAE took the honours and the yellow jersey rights with Brandon McNulty at the end of that strange team time trial. Stage 4, we went into Beaujolais up to Montbrouille, home of some red wine, and that's where we saw a battle between the GC riders on a steep final climb, won by Santiago Buitrago of Bahrain Victorious, sort of showing that they're not a super team as such, but they do get a lot of World Tour level victories. We'll get back to that at Tirreno Adriatico later on. In the GC group, Luke Platt performed particularly well, the Australian champion. He went into the yellow jersey with a second place on the stage, whilst Matthias Skelmos and Remco Evenepoel battled it out and won the bragging rights in the main body of the GC group. Stage 5 to Sistan was a sprint stage in the end, and Olaf Koy pipped everyone to the line to take that win ahead of Mads Payson and Pascal Ackermann of Israel Premier Tech. The yellow jersey, therefore, still stayed on the shoulders of Luke Platt. That is, however, until a very fascinating stage on stage 6. It could have gone, anyway, but attritional stage saw a group of 3 disappear up the road, in Matthias Skelmose, Brandon McNulty, and Mateo Jorgenson, with Skelmose taking the stage win, just around about 1 minute behind. We saw Remco Evenepoel lead the charge in for the other GC riders, including Primoz Roglic and a newly informed Egan Bernal. whilst Joao Almeida, Carlos Rodriguez, Jay Vine, and Sasha Vlasov all lost time on the stage. With that breakaway move, Brandon McNulty took the yellow jersey with a 23-second advantage to Mateo Jorgenson, his compatriot, going into the final 2 days in the Maritime Alps. Stage 7 was changed last minute. We then had a finish up La Madone d'Utel. It was supposed to go into sort of the deep Alps in Oran. That didn't happen due to bad weather conditions. But the man who tamed the bad weather conditions was Sasha Vlasov, who went early on the climb, benefited from the GC guys all looking at each other. Not quite as cohesive in the chase behind. Surprising, given that the GC was incredibly close together and plenty of people within a good chance of winning. Evenepoel secured second place in the stage, with Roglic in third, Skjelmose at fourth, and Mateo Jorgenson in fifth. Jorgenson getting closer to the yellow jersey, but McNulty held onto the race lead with 4 seconds of an advantage coming into the final stage around Nice. On that stage, well, it was Lidl Trek who really controlled the race, but Remco Evenepoel attacked with about 60 kilometers to go, bringing forward Mateo Jorgenson and Sasha Vlasov. That trio stayed together until the final climb up the Col des Quatre Chemins. On that climb, well, Mateo Jorgenson had a big enough advantage to win the race overall after dropping Brandon McNulty. Remco Evenepoel tried to get rid of Mateo Jorgenson once more, but he just didn't have the legs. The American and the Belgian went forward as a duo all the way to the line, while Sasha Vlasov was dropped on that final climb. Between the two, well, Remco Evenepoel took the stage win in that Belgian national champions jersey to move up into second overall, behind the race winner, Visma Lease A's Mateo Jorgenson, who didn't wear yellow for a single day this week, but came out as the overall winner. But Brandon McNulty finished in third place, only just for UAE Team Emirates. It looked like Sasha Vlasov could move up onto the podium. However, Matthias Skjelmose managed to limit the losses and finish in fourth overall, with Vlasov in fifth, Plapp sixth, Bernal seventh, Kelderman eighth, Felix Gal ninth, and interestingly, Primoz Roglic in his first race with Bora Hansgrohe, moving down to 10th, losing 4 minutes on the final stage around Nice.
I mean, ride of the week is going to be incredibly tight for you, Ewan, in terms of Mateo Jorgensen and Vlasov getting a victory. But yeah, I mean, I know Jorgensen winning, that's an incredible result. We'll go into that. But Roglic, big money signing. Roglic, the poster boy for Bora. Big kind of, well, what would you say? That aspirations, they talk of winning the Tour de France for the first time in his career is kind of was on the off season. Yeah, are you guys concerned about this result at all? We are only in March. There's still plenty of time before we get to the Tour de France.
I am, to be honest. And this wasn't, for some reason, I don't know why, but Roglic never quite looked like Roglic this week in a strange way. I don't even know. You know, you just look at Ryder's body language. He didn't look like he was spinning the gear quite as easily. He was wearing longs like all the time. He seemed to just be really suffering. He never really like attacked, or whenever he did, it never looked like he was fully able to do it. Like he went for like a small intermediate sprint where Jorgensen went over the top. I don't think that Roglic looked very good this week. Like you say, there's a lot of time until the Tour. That's the big goal this year, but consider the fact that every other GC Galactico seemingly is at a higher level than he is at the moment. That is ground that you need to make up. And Evenepoel even said that he didn't go to altitude or whatever before this Paris-Nice, and he still finished second. So it is a little bit concerning for me that Roglic lost so much time, that he was dropped while sitting in the wheels in Matt Skjelmose, second group, because Vlasov was ahead, and then he proceeded to the group behind with Bernal, caught them, and then he was dropped like a stone out of there as well on a stage, which I know it was very hard and, you know, it's always up and down, but it is concerning to me, to be honest, that he went from such a successful Jumbo-Visma setup and now it's just not seemingly working at Bora. Versus on the flip side, Jorgensen's come to Visma Lease A bike and is now doing really well. So there's clearly something in the Visma Lease A bike kind of way that they work that works for riders that come in, and Roglic has lost that, and yeah, he lost to Vlasov as well, who is obviously the GOAT, as you will say, but yeah, it is a little bit concerning to me.
Yeah, he didn't look like himself. We didn't see any sort of glimpses of Roglification here. Surprising that they didn't really try to field him to any of the races. His trainers and staff at the team are saying that he's on track. He's given out the best, like the numbers he should be giving, while we didn't see much evidence of that. On that stage 1 by Sasha Vlasov, he looked decent there, but at the stage to Montbrouille, which looked like a perfect finish for him, he did not really deliver at all. I wouldn't say that there was anything there. He was dropped by Skelmo's Evenepoel, and it just was grossly disappointing. And Roglic is the guy who's been good at this time of year for the past 3 years. He's won a big race at this point in the past 3 years. Okay, asterisk, Paris-Nice 2021, but he was incredible at that race. Yes, he crashed on the final day, but if it weren't for that, he would have won. He won Paris-Nice 2022. He won in Catalonia last year, all March stage races. This is a March stage race, and he did not look good at all. 10th place overall, being outshone by his teammate Sasha Vlasov, who had to sort of give a lot of awkward answers after stages, and asking him, well, who's the team leader? Are you annoyed that they had to ride for Roglic this whole week? Because he looked like the stronger card at Bora Hansgrohe this week. And if you even turn your attention to Tirreno, Jai Hindley looked great there as well. So it's hard really to see Roglic really bouncing back from this, but he is pretty much Roglic. He's a guy who can just sort of spring back into action, but at the same time, he has such an amazing stage racing record, especially like last year. He was up there in almost in every stage race he touched. And to see him as a sort of a mere shadow of himself is definitely demoralizing. Maybe once the team rebrands to Red Bull Bora, which we heard this week is going to happen before the Tour de France, he'll be caffeinated and fully ready for the Tour de France climbs to come. And also, is this now a return of the trident? Roglic, Vlasov, Hindley. Are we going to have another silly trident to contend with at the Tour de France?
I think UAE Team Emirates proved this week at Paris-Nice that more leaders is not better in any way, because they, like, we spoke about this like a couple of weeks ago, and I you know, to be fair, lots of people were a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure about that, but I said, you know, what is UAE without Pogacar? And you got to say, in comparison to other teams, when they don't have Pogacar there, they are always second best, pretty much. There's nobody on UAE who can stick it to Jonas, to Remco, or seemingly to Mateo Jorgenson, which is a little bit concerning, to be honest with you. Ayuso did a fantastic job this week, but they're going to be a little bit hard, I think, for UAE in every stage race where obviously Pogacar's not going because he's trying to reduce race days so he can do good at the Giro and the Tour. Yeah, UAE not, but we're a little bit underperforming this week. You know, I don't think the ups and downs helped because Jay Vine and Almeida are seemingly just descend like Bambi on ice, which left them with McNulty, who probably wasn't like the best bet, I don't think, considering that repeated climbs just don't really seem to suit him too well. He's getting better at them, but yeah, honestly, I can't remember what my whole point of this was, but...
I mean, McNulty is doing a lot better since we discussed him and made a clip about what is happening with him, so fair play to him. But, I mean, sticking on the Roglic point, why do you think this has happened? Because, like you said, such an amazing record last year and has been good at this period as well.
A new team. It is always something to factor in. Sometimes it benefits riders, sometimes it hampers riders. They take longer to adjust to a new team. He's at a different squad. He was at the best stage racing squad last year. Let's bear that in mind. He's got new teammates around him. Bora's team this week went quite up there in the mountains. Ironically, their team at Tirreno looked better than they did at Paris-Nice. And maybe that is playing into it. But in terms of like the morale and the interviews he's giving, he seemed like typical Roglic. I say typical Roglic of the past 2 years, more media-trained Roglic. I can't quite pin down what it is. Maybe it's a different race schedule, but now they've thrown in the fact that he's going to do the classics. So now they've updated his race schedule. The company is fairly similar to what it was beforehand in terms of his rivals. He was battling against Evenepoel for lots of last year. I'm finding it hard to really justify this dip in form. Maybe it's just a one-off. It was bad weather all week. Maybe he prefers these hotter temperatures. We saw him fantastic. Well, he's been fantastic at the Vuelta before, where it's like 30 degrees Celsius almost every day. That COVID season in 2020, it was a hot summer that year, and Roglic was right up there in the frame. But I mean, maybe also like that final stage where he lost 4 minutes. There are a lot of riders there that had home advantage because they live around those roads. Mateo Jorgenson in particular said that he could he knew every single corner on the descent and up the climbs. There are plenty of riders based around there who also would have been in a similar position. Roglic is not as familiar, but he did a stage back in 2022 and at the 2020 Tour de France on stage 2 where we had a similar finale there. So it's hard to really sort of generate a real excuse for Roglic.
I agree. I think he's just undercooked at the moment. I don't really know how else to describe it.
If you said to me you're going to kick him out of the Galactic, the sixth Galactico club, and now we're down to 5.
For me, it's controversial, but I am not including Roglic in my Galacticos list at the moment. He was beaten by Felix Gal.
But is that just based on his Pyrenees performance, though?
Yes.
Has anyone finished 10th in Paris-Nice and gone on to win the Tour de France?
I just think that when you're a Galactico, as we term them, you perform like every single race, pretty much. Like even Remco, when he capitulated at the Vuelta, I know it's a completely different race scenario and stuff, but he still like kind of bounced back. I just feel like finishing 10th is really quite bad for a Roglic standard. I know that Bora weren't particularly great this week. I don't know what they were doing with their team for the team time trial. I don't know why they had guys like Haller and Poppel here for like a semi-sprint. That was just really weird to me. It's like we were never fully confident in Roglic's ability. Like, why would you field a team which is kind of like a bit of a naff? Team time trial, it's like you're basically looking at it. People saying, oh, it'll be fine. I'm like, this is going to lose a minute. Like, I thought it was probably going to be without the rain, to be honest with you. I just think that Roglic, there's just got a couple of question marks. If he turns up to Basque Country like this, he's going to get himself absolutely whooped again because Jonas is going there and I think Remco's going there as well. Like, he just got beaten by a lot of people this week. Like Kelderman, who's a domestique for Jorgenson. And it's just like, don't know. I've got big kind of question marks over Roglic at the moment. And I just don't think that at the moment he's that S-tier guy that we've been used to him being the last few years. And that is literally just all based upon Paris this week. That's just all that I'm seeing. Based upon just what I've seen this week. That's all that I'm seeing.
I was waiting for you to say Carlos Sastre finished 10th in Paris-Nice in 2008 and went on to win the Tour or something. I don't know, I didn't check.
No, I've done some digging. So, 2 Tour de France legends who finished in 10th place at Paris but didn't go on to win the Tour de France. Eddy Merckx and Jacques Anquetil. Eddy Merckx finished in 10th place in Paris in 1967, 2 years before he took his first Tour de France. And in 1968, Jacques Anquetil finished in 10th place at Paris. That was 4 years after his final Tour de France victory. Apart from that, I mean, I've gone back to the 60s, and that's the closest I can come. And neither of them went on to win the Tour de France that year. Yeah, even digging further into the 50s. Jacques Anquetil finished in 10th place in 58, won the Tour de France the year prior, but it's not a good correlation. You'd rather be on the podium at Paris than finish in 10th place. There was that string in sort of the 2010s where Paris winners really did go on to great things at the Tour de France. But I mean, with Roglic, wait and see what he brings later into this year. Basque Country is prime Roglic country, but at the same time, also they're going to have Danny Martinez there. He's great at Basque Country, but then Jonas is Jonas Vingegaard, you know.
Speaking of Jonas Vingegaard, Tirreno Adriatico 2024, how was that? Jonas Vingegaard winning overall, second Dane to do so, but Ole Sørensen still has the record in terms of the Danish winners with 2. So what did you guys think of this race? I thought the mountaintop finishes, we'll do the chronological order.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was waiting for that. Stage 1 was a time trial around Lido di Camaiore. We often have a time trial around here. And it was won by UAE's Juan Ayuso, which means that UAE, including that team time trial, have a 100% record this year so far in the UCI World Tour level time trials. Who'd have thought? With that team time trial Paris, Ayuso's win at Tirreno, and McNulty's win at the UAE Tour last month. Stage 2, Jasper Philipsen won a sprint ahead of his old teammate Tim Merlier with an impressive third place to Alex Zingler there, the Alsatian. Stage 3 saw a hectic Very, very hectic uphill sprint. And we know who loves a hectic sprint. Phil Bauhaus, who took the stage win for Bahrain victorious, with Jonathan Milan in second place and Kevin Vauclin in third. Also, special shout out to Alberto Bettiol, who finished in fourth place. That took us on to stage number 4, where we saw Jonathan Milan take the stage win ahead of Jasper Philipsen and Corbin Strong in third place. On that stage, that meant that Jonathan Milan actually took the overall leader's jersey. Yes, a sprinter was leading this stage race, almost 2/3 of the way into it. On stage 5, however, this is where we saw the Horsemen of the Apocalypse seemed to be wearing Visma Lease A jerseys, and one of them went away. His name is Jonas Vingegaard. He attacked on what was actually not an incredibly difficult climb. Every mountain is difficult, but it wasn't the most earth-shatteringly difficult climb. But on that one, Vingegaard attacked away, gained a minute very easily. Juan Ayuso and Hindley sort of led the charge for second and third place, which put Vingegaard comfortably in the leader's jersey, almost a minute ahead of Juan Ayuso. The next stage to Monte Petrano, we had a bit of deja vu. Vingegaard attacked. Ayuso stayed with him for a little bit, but it wasn't for long. Vingegaard extended his gap in the GC lead by taking the stage win, whilst Ayuso took second place, Hindley for third, and an impressive ride by the Mexican Isaac Del Toro placed him in fourth place on the stage, and he moved up into fourth place in GC. Remarkable. He kind of had this, he was dropped and then came back. It was a whole sort of emotional roller coaster ride, but Del Toro managed to get another World Tour top 5 in the GC. That left us with a sprint stage finale. Really, you have a 1-week-long stage race and you just finish it with a sprint stage. Anyways, it was won in a very, very hectic sprint by Jonathan Milan, who took another stage win this week. That left the overall win in Vingegaard's camp, 1 minute 24 ahead of Ayuso, with Hindley in third at 1:52, Isaac Del Toro in fourth at 2:20, and Ben O'Connor in fifth at 2:24.
What do you think of Milan? Because Jonathan Milan, we've spoken about him a lot in terms of, we've mentioned the track background, Olympic champion, obviously in the team pursuit, unfortunately for Denmark. But he's really just, he's still young and has this powerful engine. And last year in the Giro, it looked like sometimes he just wasn't in the right position, but had the strongest kick out of everyone, but would end up finishing second, third.
Yeah, well, I think he's sort of rectifying this now with his new team at Lido Trek. We saw sort of their lead out, particularly his track teammate Consani, who he knows really, really well from that background, both Olympic champions in that team. And I think that is definitely showed, it's given him a platform to really jump away and become one of the hot new sprinters. I think he's a bit underrated. I think last year, of course, he got that Giro win in the Maglia Ciclamino. The results elsewhere, the Giro didn't quite show just how strong he was. He was often the fastest man in the finale, but just didn't have the right lead out. And the amount of wins he had in his Palmares up until that point, it's not huge. He took 3 wins before that Giro win, and they only had one other World Tour win last year, which was at the Tour de Guangxi. Doesn't quite count, sorry. But then this year, he's already got 2 World Tour wins already. And he's showing that he is a top-level sprinter, beating the man that we thought was the fastest sprinter in the world, Jasper Philipsen, who did take a win here, evidently had good legs. I just think with Milan's engine, that big, tall figure, he's so Marcel Kittel, that there is a Kittel vibe about him, and he was so unstoppable for a good 4 years. Maybe Milan has a good 4 years on him, but I think he's definitely going on a very, very good and upwards trajectory.
I was literally going to say, he is the second coming of Marcel Kittel, which is so good to see, this absolute brute of a sprinter. It feels like, it does feel like the last one who we had was, the Kittel Greipel era. It feels like sprinters aren't really like that anymore. It feels like, Philipsen is the really dominant one, but the most surprising thing for me about Milan was how well he was climbing this week, actually. For such a big guy, I thought, take Kittel, for example, who I'm comparing him to. There's no way he would have been competitive on that. It was the one which he won, Philipsen was second, and Corbin Strong was third. No way Kittel would have been competing in that. No way Kittel would have been competing in a stage which Phil Bauhaus won. The fact that Milan is so... He came, third in the TT as well at the start, and then he was just sprinting so well on the flat. He managed to get over little lumps and bumps. He's an absolute sprinting sensation, and he's 23 3 or something like that. Lidl Trek have got such a good rider there. Going to the Giro later this year. Be really interesting to see if he can kind of double down on how he did because obviously he won the Ciclamina jersey last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doubles up, but he is up against like Coy, who will have the lead out of Wout van Aert, so that's going to be quite hard to go up against. But I just loved how Milan, when he looked on the limit, and I'm like, oh, there's no way he's going to be able to sprint. He just like gets out of the saddle and just starts bobbing, and he just manages to find another kind of level of hurt just to go through, and I just really love it. I love how he is just this kind of really pure power sprinter, and I just think it's really cool.
I think he's also got great strength and character. He's the way he holds himself. It's very fun. It's very sort of effervescent, like these younger riders coming through, your Pogacars and so forth of the world. He just doesn't. Well, sprinting world is very sort of ego-driven and having that confidence and so forth. That is so important in the sprinting discipline, and it seems like that doesn't really bother Milan. He's just going at it. And he was rewarded with 2 hard-fought stage wins. The stage that Bauhaus won, I mean, that was impressive that he was there in the first place. Look at the guy. I mean, Vogtlau finished in 3rd place. He's not a sprinter at all. And once you sort of consolidate this team with more sprint engines by his side, instead of sharing a half-assed GC team for Theo and Hart, to finish 29th place overall, by the way, then I think that Milan could definitely be the sprinting star of the Giro. Coy is going to be hard to overturn. We saw Coy was really, really good at Paris-Nice, overwhelming Mads Payson a number of times, who was on really, really good form until this point. And Wout van Aert's going to be a huge influential figure there, but I think that pure power of Milan is going to be hard to overcome, particularly with a Consoni lead out.
One of the stages of Paris-Nice where they, like, Little Trek had the perfect lead out, Mads Pedersen couldn't have, it was basically they were taking him on a carpet all the way to the finishing line. I think if you had Milan there, they would have won that, but Coy managed to win in, like, the final few throws of the stage, so I think Milan is a threat to Mads Pedersen's role within the team.
Well, I mean, let's wait and see what happens. Next week is going to be an important one. San Remo, because Milan's odds are really shortening. He's climbing really well. And, I mean, it's very fitting for a man called Jonathan Milan to win Milan San Remo. Payson as well, I mean, we'd be bigging him up as a Milan San Remo contender. Who goes for it between them? Who's their chosen son? Milan's showing better form. Pearson's more reliable probably in that kind of profile, but it wasn't until last year that Pearson really showed that he could be competitive in San Remo.
I'd probably say Pedersen. I think there's... I don't think bias is the correct word, but I think that Pedersen probably has the better ability to go with an attack on the Poggio, which is how we see it tends to play out. I just think that Milan, I can already see his bobbing head trying to, like, hold the wheel, and I just don't think he's going to be able to follow the moves when they go. Personally, I think that Pedersen has a better shot of that, and then Milan is the kind of sprinting choice behind. He's sort of like, it's like Alpecin are going to have Mateo and Philipsen, and Lidl Trek are going to have Pedersen and Milan. And that's going to be like the two, they're going to kind of sort of cancel each other out. Which obviously means that Poggy will win, therefore.
And I mean, J.K. Alula could play with Matthews and Ewan, but Caleb Ewan's been anonymous so far this spring. But, I mean, Pippo Ganna finished second last year. He held onto the wheels. He's about the same weight, same height. They're on the same track team.
It's true.
Maybe they've shared cheat codes, I wouldn't be shocked if Jonathan Milan won San Remo.
Do you think he's the faster sprinter right now, since he beat Philipsen, or is it, well, Philipsen did crash in Tirreno, so we should point that out as well.
Yeah, true. Little Trek have the potential to have the best sprinting package. I think Phillips at the moment is probably the best full package. They've also got an incredibly strong lead out with Mateo van der Poel as well, and all those guys that build into the Alpecin lead out. Little Trek sort of developing on that, and they could definitely have the best sprinting package. But right here and now, I'd probably say there's more evidence to say Phillips. He still won a stage hit, let's not forget. But I think is Milan stronger than, like, Groenewegen? Yeah, I'd say so.
Like I say, Scott, Philipsen did crash, but I reckon if you basically dropped them both off, like disregard lead out strength and everything, and you set them off at like the same speed, like whatever, 50 k's an hour, and you've got like 200 meters to go, I think at the moment I would back Milan to beat Philipsen in a kind of out and out sprint, just because I think he's just got more raw power. But in terms of like what Ewan said, in terms of if somebody needs to get over some harder terrain, like, say, Stage 8 of the Tour de France last year, which Pedersen won ahead of Philipsen, I think that Philipsen is better at climbing than Milan is, just because he is built better for that. He's kind of like a little bit lighter. So I think that Philipsen is going to be able to compete in a wider array of sprints than Milan is. But I do think that in terms of raw power, put them on the Champs-Élysées, I'm saying that Milan would probably win.
Well, we might as well, you two both touched on it. Milan San Remo is coming up, and do you still consider Mateo van der Poel as the big favourite, despite not having any road preparation? And I haven't found one yet where someone's gone on to win Milan San Remo from no prior road races. Obviously, he finished third 2 years ago, but he has also done a cyclocross season, so it's not like he's just been sitting on the beach and doing nothing. So, is he the favourite, or if not, who do you think the favourite is?
It's hard to say. Like you say about third place, but that was off the back of some back injuries and stuff, if I remember correctly. So I'd argue that if you say that he got third place after probably having suboptimal prep, you got to say that probably third place is sort of the benchmark that we're going with. You know, if it's him versus Poggy in a finish, I'd probably say Mateo was a better sprint there, for sure, based upon, we saw it E3 last year. Mateo beat him in a sprint there, even if Wout did win. But, Wout's not here for whatever freaking anti-cyclismo reason that Wout and Art's going to try and pull this time. So, I'm not sure if he is the favourite. I would say Pedersen would be the favourite. Based on how he looked at Paris, I think Pedersen can follow a move from Mateo and beat him in a sprint, personally, at the moment. Piffy could probably win. I'm not sure if he's actually going to San Remo, but that'll be a cool one.
Pearson, actually, although I said he couldn't win a sprint this week, he climbed really well. He was in the breakaway and sort of getting those mountain legs in shape for San Remo, and I think that probably shows signs that he is eyeing this one up. He has a really good chance to as well. With Noah Van Aert there, I think he does occupy a sort of that gap. But you do also have to factor in Christophe Laporte, who's definitely been keeping his powder dry over the past couple of weeks. For some reason, he did not go to any of the Paris-Nice or Tirreno Adriatico races. Don't quite know why. Particularly is that over the past couple of years, they've showed such good conversion rates towards San Remo victories. But elsewhere, I don't think we're going to have a sort of a Sturven kind of scenario. I think it will probably be one of these bigger riders who takes the win. I just don't think it's going to be Poggy. Van der Poel definitely does have that kick. We don't know where he is, but this is Van der Poel at the end of the day. He's a big race rider. It's a big occasion, this. He's been sort of airdropped into this race. And he's with two very strong helpers in the form of Jasper Philipsen and Søren Kragh Andersen, who played a really important role last year. So I have faith and confidence in Van der Poel to take the win. I don't think he can replicate what he did last year, purely because he will be the marked man to do exactly the same thing. But who out of these guys is going to be able to follow him if he does that? If it is a similar scenario to last year, really, who's a descender that could stick on his wheel? Matej Mohoric?
Yeah, Mohoric. But yeah, I was going to say Stoladi, he came fifth, but that's definitely not a representative kind of profile. I don't think you can ever write off Mohoric. Olaf Koy? Dare I even throw
There we go. Here we go.
Visma Lease A could just work, it's working. Whatever they're doing, it's working. Laporte and Koy, again, it's very similar to the Van der Poel and the Philipsen, it's the Pedersen and the Milan, and it's Laporte and Koy. It's the exact same thing. I don't know. Could you put Philipsen in the ring here as well? Axel Laurence, he is on debut, so I doubt it. But yeah, other than that, I think it's all in for Poggy in the UAE camp. De Lee wasn't good at Paris either, so it's kind of hard to throw him in there as well. But, other than that, Zingler, Kuznetsov was actually quite good at Strade, and this is the kind of Kuznetsov sort of effort. He's a very good puncher, and he does seem actually consistent this year. Kuznetsov is sometimes a bit prone to being a bit hot and cold in races, but he seemed to have found a little bit of consistency, so that's another name. But I think I'm still sticking with Pedersen, and then it might just literally be Pedersen, Van der Poel, Poggy, and then behind it's their representative sprinter teammates in the group behind in Milan, Philipsen and Coy, and they could occupy 4th through to 6th. It honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, this is, I think, the race where it's hardest to be the favorite. Because you're such a marked man, and there are fewer places you can get away here than in other races. But he is Van der Poel at the end of the day, and that power that he has is overwhelming sometimes. If he pulls off one of these like biblical attacks, then it's going to be hard to match it. But I mean, not having Wout there is really playing into his hands, because Wout's a similar rider, and I think Wout's probably the guy that he would have been most worried about. But going into it this year, I think he can maybe be more confident than normal.
I could definitely see a scenario, because I think we're all expecting that recent trends will say that a small group will go away or a solo rider goes away. But imagine a scenario where it does actually turn out to be the Sprinters Classic once more, where Pedersen, Van der Poel and Poggy get off a descent of the Poggio, and Van der Poel's like, I haven't raced, I'm not going to pull too hard. Poggy's like, I'm not going to win a sprint here, I'm not going to pull too hard, and then it's just left with Pedersen on the front, very, very Sagan 2017-esque when he was beaten by Kwiatkowski, something like that. And then you've got all those decent sprinters that I've named before, all hurtling behind, probably led by Jacob Alula, or Ineos, because those two are just suckers for working on the front, just no matter what the scenario. It comes back, and then, one of the sprinters from those 3 teams, Lidl, Trek, Alpecin and Visma Lease A bike, takes the win instead. It could actually still be the Sprinters Classics. Maybe we're all being a bit too blinded by recent circumstances. I mean, at the end of the day, there was an era there was a time where we shifted from the Sprinters Classic to the Attacking Classic. It's very possible we could revert back, just because Wout's not there.
And this is the first San Remo Wout has not been at since 2018. And that one was Nibali ahead of a big sprinting group.
Caleb Ewan to win. I don't know it. Is he even going?
The thing is, Caleb Ewan should win this race. Like, he's been on the podium so many times. I feel like
Sagan should have won this.
I mean, yes, yeah. But as I say, it's a hard race to win if you are the favorite. And Sagan has proved that time and time again. And Poggy will probably prove that again this year.
Okay, predictions then. Who do you think is going to win? We'll just take winners. And remember that Patrick said Jan Tratnik was going to win Humlu, and that came true.
True.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, your checkbooks. Wait for what Patrick says.
I'm really trying to manifest in my mind whether I think that this imaginary group of Poggy, Van der Poel and Pedersen is going to go away, or whether the cohesion just breaks down, or whether that group gets away and Poggy pings it off the back and tries to go solo. It's not out of the question. No, I'm going to stick with, I think, what am I going to go? I think Coy comes third. I think Poggy comes second, and I think that Pedersen wins. I think Van der Poel blows up somehow. I can just see this marauding, sprinting group behind in my mind's eye, just coming down the Via Roma, just hurtling it after Pedersen. I don't know why, but that's kind of how I see it. I'm for some reason favouring these sprinters who are climbing quite well at the moment to be quite a threat. So I'm going to go with, that's my podium.
Van der Poel will either win this or come in 9th. There's no in between. But I think he's going to come 9th. Oh, that feels harsh. It's so boring to pick Pedersen because you pick Pedersen. I do think Pedersen is probably my best pick right now. It's either going to be Pedersen or Van der Poel, but there's no one else.
What about Poggy?
Poggy thing, I don't know.
Okay, I'll pick him just so we have him on the list.
Poggi has to attack over Poggio. He has to.
Everyone's going to follow him. It's like,
well, there's a big difference between wanting to follow and actually being able to follow. But I tell that to a user, just follow Jonas's wheel. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, easy.
Just do it. I can't. The legs won't respond. And Poggi has to go. And like we saw last year with Poggio, did he not attack like 3 times or something like that? Like something crazy. Like the elastic's gonna snap. And I noticed none of us mentioned Ganna, really. Is that just because he looked a little bit meh at Tirreno?
Very meh.
He did look very meh.
Ganna action. Last year was a bit of sort of not a one-off, but like a one-off. I don't see Pippo Ganna being up there in the frame. Any outsiders for the podium here?
I'm going to say Kuznetsov as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
As a rogue one. You could just imagine it's like Galactico's group of Poggi, Pedersen, and Mateo off the front versus Kuznetsov off the back. Just like, hey, I'm here. Just, he's going to channel that GP Quebec form into San Remo.
Anyways, we might as well return to Tirreno because you guys alluded to it. That was also where we saw these absolutely atrocious helmets that have subsequently been banned.
Well, I mean, okay, so the helmets haven't formally...
They're not.
They're under review. But the Aerosol, the face condom, will be banned beginning April 1st. No joke. So we're going to see them for the last time very soon. I didn't think they were that sort of illegal that they had to ban them. But yeah, I mean, this decision came a day after the viral Giro helmet that came out. I mean, there were a number of like weird helmets that came out from Tirreno Adriatico, but this one really did sort of take headlines. It's ugly. Even my non-cycling friends were sort of sending me pictures and memes about it. It transcended borders, and it is ugly. There is no aesthetically pleasing aspect about this, but aerodynamics, it doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing. These men wear Lycra after all.
That's true. I mean, it's true. It's true. I agree with you, though. It's kind of weird how they're just like, okay, everyone thought, oh, okay, this monstrosity has hit my eyes. Like, oh my word, I can't unsee it. And we thought that's going to get banned. And then UCI went, okay, we're going to ban this other helmet. And it's like, wait, hang on a second. You mean the one that's been around for like 2 years and you've just had no problem with? It's like, why is this new helmet come along and you're now pointing the gun at the specialized helmet which has been around for 2 years and you've kind of known about? It's just a bit weird. That's what their decision. I mean, there's a lot of kind of like, I don't know, you see like Dowsett and Bingham are all kind of up in arms on Twitter saying they're not sticking to their rule books. Why make rules if you're not going to stick to them? The fact of the matter is the UCI do not give a flying F about anything. They are going to do what they want when they so choose to do it. So, I don't know, please, UCI, oh God, please get rid of that helmet and do not allow anything like that to ever hit our screens again, because at that point, it had gone too far. And I think everyone, or at least every sane person, agreed that it was a monstrosity and it needed to be annihilated from existence. So I hope that was the first and last appearance that helmet gets.
Paul Martins, when he unveiled it, the former rider for Rabobank, obviously part of the team setup now, he didn't look very happy if he had it. It was just like...
Understandably.
Yeah.
It's not nice to look at.
Chris Boardman said that Ed Clancy or something, they had like the early designs of this or something like that, and they chose not to do it back like 20 years ago. So it was like, yeah.
What was ironic about this is that it was supposed to be faster and save time.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking at the result sheet at Tirreno Adriatico, there was much to be desired.
You could argue that they didn't have any kind of like of their big time trialing talents there. I know you could boo. Jonas is
Vingegaard won the time trial in the Tour by like Earth for shattering him out.
So different. It was stage 16, so everybody's on their knees already, right? It's got a massive F-off hill in it. Secondly, Poggi was so dead at that point, he'd lost so much time, so But it was flat, this Tirreno one. If you put Wout in the helmet around this Tirreno, I think it gives us a better benchmark. No offense, but Jonas
fair enough.
is a great time trialist when it's rolling terrain and we're 2 weeks deep into a Grand Tour. That's when he's really good. I'm not saying he's bad when it's like in the first week, because he's done good ones there. But you know what I mean? Like, the good TTs have always come in the second or third week. So a flat one, I would have liked to have seen somebody like one of their big TT hitters to give us a real benchmark as to whether it's faster or not. Sure it is, by whatever margin it might be, but the fact of the matter is, the grotesqueness of it isn't worth any number of seconds, and it should be annihilated from existence permanently.
No one wants to wear this?
No.
I was thinking it was like a PR stunt at first. I didn't think they were serious about it.
It got a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's no such thing as bad publicity, apparently.
How much are these? Like, are we going to rock up to our local tent and...
Oh, I'm sure that some mammal out there is already scouring the internet trying to find it. And when I see them at the club tent, they will get, as I've already said before, a bidon full of water thrown at their heads to see how safe it really is.
Ouch.
But it is.
Well, anyway, speaking of weird time trial helmets, going back to Remco Evenepoel and you were suggesting this. Remco Evenepoel's performance in Paris-Nice, did that show that his bar is actually quite lower than Jonas, Vingegaard and Pogacar at this time?
Well, I mean, there was a Galactico at the race. Roglic, I mean, blunt Galactico at that, barely out of this atmosphere. This week, I think, did show that he doesn't quite have that same Galactico energy that the others quite have in terms of Vingegaard and Pogacar. Maybe that is also because he's missing that Tour de France in his legs, and we haven't had that direct comparison against the others that Poggy and Vingegaard seem to sort of be blessed with, because they clash every July. But Evenepoel just didn't have that sort of commanding spirit at Paris-Nice, and his team did not perform very well. His team made a lot of tactical blunders. He made a lot of tactical blunders. I think Soudal, if they really were stronger and sort of more tactically astute during this week, it would have been a much smaller margin between himself and Jorgenson in the end. And the fact that Jorgenson sort of stuck to his wheel like glue, and Evenepoel even said that it was hard to follow Jorgenson up the climbs, says a lot. I know Jorgenson literally lives on the route, knows it very well. He's performed at Paris particularly well over the past 2 years, but Evenepoel just isn't really giving me the signs that he's quite on Poggy and Vingegaard's level at these stage races. On a one-day race, yeah, definitely. But in a stage race, I'm not quite convinced yet. We did miss an individual time trial this week. Let that be known. Because that would definitely play into Evenepoel's hands. But in that 3-week-long Tour de France, where there's only 2 time trials, I'm not quite so sure he's going to stand out.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of question marks over Roglic, like we said earlier, and there's question marks over Remco, because I say, like, not being able to drop Jorgenson, like, no offense to Jorgenson or fans of Jorgenson, but you would expect, given the history of, I don't know, just the last few years, that Evenepoel should have been able to drop him. And I agree with you, and there was something about, again, the kind of just the body language. When he attacked, it looked like he was going full gas, but it wasn't, like, he just wasn't able to drop people. It didn't look like the Remco that has just powered away easily to win Liège-Bastogne-Lièges or Vuelta a España victories or time trial victories at World Champs. Like, he was just, where he's just looks like he's just easily generating power. It looked like he was quite laboured, and when he got rolled by Skelmoser up to La Bruy, I think is that what it's called. He just looked like he was going really hard, but it's like he had like a rev limiter on it. He couldn't quite get it all out. Whether that's just because he's, still getting into the season, but, he was beaten by Martinez a couple of times on the uphills at Algarve. I know he had a gear problem, but if it's been these guys go, it shouldn't really be that much finishing. And yeah, then this time not being able to get the better of Jorgenson, always seemingly getting beaten by some other climber. Yeah, it's just a little bit weird that Remco's coming second best. It was very, very uncharacteristic.
And I don't think he distanced himself. Like, where we've seen Poggy and Vingegaard distance themselves easily from everyone else, Evenepoel never did that. That sprint at the end of the stage won by Skelemoser, yes, he gained a 1 second gap at the end, whoop-de-doo. But he didn't sort of attack away and separate himself from the other guys here. Felix Gall is not really contending for a top 5 in the Tour de France. Neither is Aurélien Barrépin, Luke Plapp, these kind of guys, They're not the kind of people he's really competing against at his level at the Tour de France. But he didn't show any signs of really being above them in this race, apart from that final stage where Jorgenson wasn't at his level. Jorgenson is not the number 1 guy for Visma. Heck, is he even the number 2 guy for Visma right now? We don't know. It's just kind of worrying, particularly sort of at Paris over the past couple of years. We've seen such clear signs of sort of Roglic looking good, Pogacar looking good. They're on like an upward trajectory, proving their Galactico status. I just don't think we quite saw that from Evenepoel this week. And heck, the final stage he won because him and Jorgenson made an agreement. Like, if Evenepoel worked with Jorgenson, he was going to give him the stage win. So, like, asterisk all you want.
Basically, all of this is looking very ominous for the fact that Jonas is going to walk this Tour de France. I know it's still months away, but when you consider that 2 of the competitors we've got question marks over, Poggy's going to the Giro, it is a little bit ominous, I think, that Jonas is looking so strong already.
I have a feeling that Remco Evenepoel is going to be absolutely burnt alive at the Dauphiné. The Dauphiné, I think, is often a race where people are sort of shown like how their form is, and if they're not on a good sort of trajectory, Dauphiné particularly is where it is. It's a ruthless race with so many hills and mountains on the agenda. I think we're going to see a sort of a bad state of affairs for Remco Evenepoel there. The Tour de France, he has the opportunities with the time trials and those rolling stages to really show his worth. But if things don't improve by the Dauphiné, if he's finishing 5th overall there, he's not winning the Tour de France, I'm afraid.
Anyways, on that bleak note, we might as well go to our new segment of the World Tour rankings, and we've kind of been following this the last 2 weeks. And obviously, Tirreno, Adriatico, and Paris-Nice carried a lot of points, but it didn't really seem to reflect because it was the 2 top teams. UAE still holding on to top spot, despite Visma Lease A winning both races. Obviously, Ayuso was up there and Brandon McNulty. But yeah, Alpes and Phoenix still quite lonely down in, last place right now, together with Astana, Kazakhstan, and Cofidis in the season drop zone, if that was a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, UAE, let's also factor in that they also had Del Toro in 4th place at Tirreno, and they had an 11th place from Almeida at Paris as well.
I'm winning
stage wins.
Yeah, exactly.
The time trials and so forth. But, I mean, Decathlon still keeping up their good form this year. They had Felix Gall, Paris Peintre up there in Paris-Nice, and a really good-looking Ben O'Connor ahead of the Giro at Tirreno Adriatico. I'm really excited to see what he can bring at the Giro. This team has sort of they've got such good momentum this year. It reminds me of Intermarché from a couple of years back, where they sort of had that good momentum and it sort of built through the season. The morale seems to be high in the team. They brought some new riders in and they're really showing themselves. Sam Bennett was getting top 5s in sprints this week. Who'd have thought? Roll back the clocks to 2020. Unai was showing good form as well. But at the bottom, Bahrain being 18th. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that is highly surprising to me.
2 stages in one day with Bauhaus and it's just Lukagas.
I guess stages don't carry too much. It's kind of more the overall GC, and I think losing Boitago unfortunately on that last day, and also they didn't Bilbao wasn't really up there as a insurance policy really didn't help them, and Tiberi and Caruso weren't performing at Tirreno outside of getting in a random rogue breakaway on the last day. I just think that Bahrain, despite that one day of massive success, just didn't do good in the overall GC, and that's really kind of shot them in the foot, I think. So they're going to need to, which is surprising considering how well they've done the last few years. But it's early on. I'm sure they'll rally to do well once more.
Also, I mean, not performing so well. 13th place, Bora Hansgrohe.
Yeah,
well they've done.
They did Roglic.
Yeah, 6 million a year.
That's a lot. It'll be fine. It'll be
You're
fine.
into the tour, and then, well, this is all forgotten.
We'll all shut up at that point.
Anyways, coming to the final part, Rider of the Week. And I mean, this is a very competitive one, I think, with Tirreno and Paris-Nice. And even the Tour de Taiwan, if you want to put that in the ring.
I'm not going to put that in the ring.
Sad time.
I can stay firmly outside of my ring. It's really hard because a lot of really, really good rides.
A lot of your favorite riders have done well.
I know. Part of me wants to pick Del Toro because I think he showed great sort of strength and character, and it's so exciting to see someone like Del Toro do well. But for how great he was in this race and how happy he was to win overall, it has to be Mateo Jorgenson. Winning on home roads, well, his adopted home roads in the south of France. And I mean, that team was also split up with Olaf Koe. And Jorgenson has just been going from strength to strength. This transfer, it's another one of these Visma wonder stories. He's the Christophe Laporte of 2024 in terms of Visma yassifying him, turning him, like pimping his ride, you know. They have turned him into a superstar, as some people suggested a couple months back, and I'm happy to see it. Here's to Ginger Pride.
I'm going to go with the rebirth of Marcel Kittel himself, Jonathan Milan, as my Rider of the Week for winning 2 sprint stages, climbing incredibly well, and winning the Ciclamino jersey. I think that was a really outstanding performance. Really kind of dusting Philipsen on a couple of occasions. I thought that was really strong. So, fantastic ride for Jonathan Milan this week.
I mean, the easy one is to go for Jonas Vingegaard, but we're trying to not give it to Galactico, so I'm going to give it to Rising Galactico and Mathias Gilmour Jensen because they won on the same day. That's never happened before. 2 Danes winning simultaneously in Tirreno and in Paris-Nice. So I have to give it to one of them.
In terms of Skilmos as well, he lost so much time in that silly team time trial there. He showed real fortitude to get back.
Yeah, proper champ. But I mean, anything else? Milan San Remo, we did that, so we're fine.
Milan Turin is happening as well. Is it flat this year? Is it hilly?
It's like a tune-up. Well, they like to think that it's a tune-up for San Remo, but yet none of the big San Remo.
No, sorry, it's hilly this year.
Is it?
What is going on?
Who
Mark
knows?
Hirschi's winning this.
Do they just flip a coin every year?
Hilly, not hilly. Hilly, not hilly. Anyways, with that revelation, that's basically it for number 59, I think. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel here, and get involved in the comments as well. And if you haven't already, subscribe, tweet, whatever Twitter is. Follow us on Twitter. There we go. Got it right. And of course, as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.